Both Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light were recently remastered and re-released at almost full price. The Last Light Redux version looks like a waste of time, but Metro 2033 was fully imported to the newest version of the engines and got the Last Light mechanics, so it was worth a bit of a look. The Metro Redux pack is one of the games on the forefront of the criticism that games are only a few years old and are being released as remastered for a full price release with only minor changes. I'll preface this review by saying that this version is almost certainly better than the original release in both graphics and gameplay, and with few exceptions is the definitive version of 2033. But there is additional detail required here, so let's get started. Now for the most important part of any game, the gameplay. All of the Last Light mechanics have been transplanted to 2033, with the exceptions of claymores as a consumable weapon type. We have spike grenades in their place. The casualties end up being the knife as a selectable weapon, replaced by the more modern military shooter style knife slash and execution on demand. I did run into some additional mash to stab no-solicit QTEs, but I don't remember them from before. But I don't think they were really that bad. The traffic light visibility system as opposed to the binary blue jewel in Last Light was introduced, and that oddly overkill seeming bayonet attachment for the Shambler shotgun was removed as well. The Volt driver is also not given to you when you clear the first firefight of the game, so if you miss having that hand-charged death cannon from the word go, you're gonna have some problems. The weapon attachments from Last Light are here, as well as a few, but only a few as far as I can tell, of the Last Light weapons, and thankfully there was some effort put into seeding these attachments throughout the bandits you encounter, which is nice. Levels have had some added elements as well. There are safes full of loot that require keys you must find somewhere nearby, notably more interactive elements with the use of switches and such on the levels. One of the criticisms I was hearing of the Redux edition was about how the darkness being binary was an oversimplification, but in my opinion all they were doing was removing randomness from the game. The second you went into the yellow in 2033, you were in the hands of the II programmers, and there was little more than luck as to whether you were filled with Russian lead. Here is the real problem I run into. I played this on hardcore, partially because I hadn't played it recently enough to know where everything was without prompts, and partially because I wanted to get a good portion through the game in short time. Now I know it wasn't Ultra Range or hardcore, but I think thanks in part to the new elements, I was still loaded down with ammo on hardcore mode. I found it a bit disappointing. I got lots and lots of the highly efficient shotgun shells literally everywhere, and I got so many MGRs from safes with keys that were right next to them, although there were actually plenty where I couldn't find the keys, and lots of puzzles that I never figured out, so it does add some replay value at least. I was also constantly loaded down with a full stack of the explosives and throwing knives, which the level design really didn't cater towards, as well as ammo for a revolver I wasn't forced to equip anymore, which makes me wonder about how much was actually spent on the level rebalancing. Perhaps I'm just a tosser for not playing on Ranger Hardcore mode, but I expected the challenge to extend a bit further than the no solace hitting like trucks with Hulk Hogan strapped to the fender and healthcare inferior to that of the United States. Something I did appreciate, however, is that the collectible diaries really add some flavor. More on that later. Now on to the technology. The graphics, as you would expect, are shinier than 2033. Duh. The game also runs much better. With the textures and models on max and plenty of anti-aliasing, the game had great frame rates on my old Radeon 6850s, even when I was recording. However, according to a lot of people, I'm really missing out without the tessellation and PhysX particles that my older GPUs can't handle, but I could tell the difference. I also had a unique technical issue with my save file getting deleted on the patch that came 12 hours after release, which created some new bruises on my knuckles and delayed this video to a significant degree. But here's really the thing that ticks me off. They imported all of the models from Last Light and placed them straight onto the 2033 rigs. Facial animation is worse than my poor memory of 2033 gives. There's a lot of slung gun models clipping into characters as they walk. It's all little things, but things that show a lot of lack of effort in that department. Otherwise, the game looks a lot better, and runs better. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the story. The beats and everything are the same this time around, and while there are a lot of little tiny differences in levels and character models and the like, and those do affect the mood, none of it rocks your socks off. The real change here is the diaries. It's the same system as Last Light, collectible books of first-person flavor text from our philosophical friend Artyom, and just like the first time around, a great portion of these seem to have been written by Mr. Glukovsky himself, with the same excellently glum and symbolism-obsessed writing as always. These are enjoyable, but nothing really special, and you're better off just heading over to the wiki to read them if you're interested. They definitely add a whole bunch to the game, but not enough to justify a second buying in my opinion. They also took out the third-person cutscenes this time and made them first-person, which was a good improvement, but nothing that I really noticed, although actually, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't notice them. Overall, this is the definitive version of Metro 2033, but unlike, say, the director's cut for Human Revolution, it is certainly not worth a second purchase. But if you only owned it on consoles or are for some reason here for your opinion on Metro 2033 as a whole, I wholeheartedly recommend the Redux edition. This is the Elite Gur signing off. Safe travels, Stalker.